Strictly Average Bell of Lost Souls, and this gentleman runs a clinic for broken and injured miniatures. He is currently working on my 3 Heralds of Tzeentch. Just to let you know how nerve-wracking this is, those 3 Heralds didn't make the trip, and so we're about to be starting the championship round. I was a late addition. I was on the waiting list, managed to get in. So I'm really not sure what I would be doing here if it wasn't for these fine gentlemen and their service.
He's not a fine gentleman.
He's not a fine gentleman?
He's not a fine gentleman. Don't confuse him.
Well, I really appreciate it, so thank you.
You're welcome.
He's an excellent gentleman.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with the Fabricator General for Feast of Blades. This is Damien, also known as the Mini Medic. All right, I first met this guy, and I'm going to be cutting in the footage at Adepticon this year, where my 2 Heralds on chariots were destroyed, and I needed assistance, and you just happened to be there doing it for free. I know I tipped you, but you weren't asking anything. Why were you doing that? Was it just a public service?
I feel called to service. I really enjoyed gaming for years. A lot of people were nice to me when I was a dumb punk, and now that I'm a dumb 30-year-old guy, I want to give something back. I love the community, I love the hobby, and I wouldn't want anyone to leave a great event like that with bad memories. So since I figured I could afford the time, I always take a day and I fix people's things.
Yeah, and you're not kidding. Like, you took the entire day, and like the year or 2 before, you actually fixed Darkwind's Eldar Titan, yes?
Yeah, I usually keep a journal of how many fixes I do, and it's always over 100.
That's amazing. And so I understand that you've brought the tools of the trade. This is your docs bag here.
Yeah, I have. Over the years, I've built up a lot of different tools. I've got about 20 years of prop industry and miniature gaming experience, and this is kind of the doctor's bag, if you will, that I take to the Mini Medic, and also I use in town locally when I build figures for friends. And I'll go through some of the things that I use to make figures and fix them that you may not have seen before. If you like this kind of a bag, I call it a doctor's bag because it's an old school spring opening. You can actually get one of these at a local hardware store. I think I got this one at Lowe's. The brand is CLC, but there's many other brands that make them too. So I put all the big stuff here in the middle that's a little too big for the pouches. So here I've got safety glasses, 5-minute epoxy resin, and some of the bigger stuff, a glue gun, a saw. It's a little disorganized, but it's some standard tools you probably recognize. The 2 side pouches have all the other small hand tools that you use for doing figures. I have a large variety of clippers. You probably recognize most of these. These are just D-sprues, side cutters. Zuron's a good name. I got a Craftsman, I've got several others. These are round nose pliers. If you want to bend pins or grasp pieces, but not actually leave square markings in the ends, you want to use a pair of round nose pliers. Zuron is a good name who makes them, X-Acto makes them. These are flush cutters, they're for a bit heavier work, bigger conversions, orc stuff like that. Locking pliers, tweezers for small pieces, shears. I also make terrain a lot. This is basically a mechanical pair of shears for heavy work, and these are fabric shears just for cloth only. If you're doing cloth or you're working stuff for conventions, you really want to not use your cloth shears for other things because it'll dull them. This is from Radio Shack. This is actually a spring-loaded circuitry cutter, but you'll recognize the end of it. It's actually a side cutter just like any other, but it also has at the end a spring-loaded wire stripper, which is what that does. You can get, I think I got this at Radio Shack, but it's a great tool too. I also have spring clamps, sanding, hemostats. My older friends like to call these roach clips.
Yeah.
I carry a different set of hand tools. I've got a couple of drills. I got different X-Acto knife hit bits. I got a pencil sharpener, X-Acto knife pieces, a stencil, and a variety of pens. I actually carry pencils when I work in my shop. I carry these for labeling terrain pieces, the stuff that's mine, signing stuff, putting marks on the bottom, bigger work when I do wood. I've got an entire set of files of basically every description. Some of my sculpting tools end up in here by mistake. I use some sculpting tools too. I've got some of them in the other piece.
Now, do you have any sculpting tools that weren't originally sculpting tools, but you just found something that works really well?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of those. This thing in here is actually a paper embosser It's got a little teeny ball on the end
Yeah.
of each side, and it's great for making dimples in green stuff or whatever, but it's originally for taking a wire, like a metal frame like your initial on a piece of paper, and tracing it out, and then it embosses like a D in your letter so it looks really fancy on your wedding invitation or something.
Ah.
Improvisation is good. So the other side has all my chem in it. I make use of, this is something that you can use to fix figures people don't think of a lot. This brand is called Fix-It Stick, but it's a 2-part epoxy resin. Let's get out a little chunk and you can see what it looks like. It comes as a 2-part piece. It's like clay, it's very soft, basically like Play-Doh. When you mix the 2 tones together, they harden in about 10 minutes into something that's a rock. This is great when you want to do stuff, like if you wanted to do hills, stuff with green stuff, where you needed a structural replacement or an underside, or really if you want to mount magnets. A lot of people mount magnets into like a tank and the inside has a hollow cavity. You need to back that up with something really strong and structural. You can drill a hole, mix this together and mash it onto the back and then set your magnet and it'll stay in there really well.
Actually, that's a good idea, because I've had problems where I've tried to mount magnets and they always come loose because the glue just doesn't want to hold the smooth side of that magnet.
Sure.
So what else have we got here?
Well, we also have a lot of different kinds of glue. One of the things that really kills me is a lot of people use super glue for everything. It works, but that's an amateur mistake. You need to use the right kind of glue. Plastic glue, for example, this Games Workshop brand, chemically softens plastic before you fuse it together, creates a much better bond. If you want to do metal to plastic, you should probably use epoxy. It's like syrup. It's very thick, and then it hardens like glass. It's like the glass part of fiberglass. If you dry set a pin set and then use epoxy to put it together, it'll never come apart. In a year or so, super glue will turn into the crystalline base form where there's no longer any aqueous solvent and it'll come apart. So those are much better choices. Also, the needle applicator of Model Master liquid cement is so much more precise than anything else. You can see here how this almost looks like an injection needle. You can control this really well. It's for putting together aircraft and fuselages where you want a very precise bead. So much better to control than the bulbous end of something like this. We'll get them together here. You can imagine where this might leave glue scar, things that would disqualify you in a high-speed modeling competition.
Yeah, I'm afraid that my tanks all have those glue scars, and you know, I've got to get with the program.
Heavier work or big pieces, you can also use brush-on glue, and I go through a lot of that too. It works similarly to the Model Master in that it softens. You paint both sides and then you hold them together under pressure, and they basically bond together.
So what do you think about it? What do you think about Accelerator? Is that just sort of a shortcut to using the right tool?
Accelerator is useful. It can be a good tool, but Accelerator is essentially the 911 emergency response where you need somebody fixed right away.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to use that if you needed open heart surgery.
Yeah.
You want to do it right. But a lot of people find it useful, and there's as many techniques as there are people. I've got some plastic in here, some paper, sandpaper. These are actually polishing cloths. One of the things, you can borrow a lot from other modelers that gamers can. For example, this is for Eldar canopies. Sometimes they have a mold line in a clear canopy. How do you correct the mold line in a clear canopy?
Yeah.
You scrape it.
Yeah, you just scrape the...
It works.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is trim it off with a razor, and then you use polishing cloths and solvent. So you go from 200 grit maybe to 500 to 1,000 to 20,000, and then it looks kind of it looks kind of like milky plastic. Then you use stage 3, 2, and 1, and you eventually squirt some on, rub it down, and you can restore it back to its glassy set where no one will even know. This stuff is available in any hobby store that's well stocked, and gamers just don't know about it. You see canopies with glue scars and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, that's some of the tricks that are in the bag of wonder, and you know, there's a few more, and there's always getting to be more.
Yeah.
Got Zona, all kinds of spinning tools and heads. Yellow glue for doing base work and fixing things that are paper and wood for terrain.
Yeah, and of course, you know,
you're gonna need.
It's like the video we got yesterday. Much of the terrain that is in this building has your fingerprints all over it.
That's true.
And so you actually organize the effort, the weekend effort, to get all these tables done. So Sir, I really appreciate your time. There's going to be a lot of folks who appreciate the detail that you've gone into here, so thank you very much.
Sure.
All right,
Good luck
this is
out there.
Brent for Bell of Lost Souls. We're signing out here with Damien. So yeah, if that you guys see this guy at a con, introduce yourselves.